everybody, and welcome back to the I Don't Know Running podcast, where we share our experiences that make running fun and sometimes not so fun. I'm Lewis, and I'm a self-admitted lazy ultra runner / on the brink of retirement, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. I don't know if you can put a name on it right now. And I'm Mitch, and I'm trying to run for both of us. That's what I'm doing, I think.
And lots of miles to carry me?
It seems that way. Lots happened in the last couple of weeks since we actually talked last. I think I ran a couple marathons since then.
Well, you did the double.
I did the double, and we talked about that.
Yeah.
And I ran Armed Services Marathon.
Oh, yeah.
And I got under 4. That's the first time I've been under 4 in a while, and
nice.
Without specifically training for it. So
yeah.
I feel pretty good about that. I mean, it's not where I'd like to be.
And it was a comfortable.
I pushed
4.
it.
You did?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was 3:56.
No. I mean, like during the race, you were running easy for the first half, and then you're like, you know what? I feel good. I'm going to kind of.
Not like, again, I'm kind of a jerk, but I was running next to some people that really annoyed me, and I just wanted to stay ahead of them. That's really the story. So I pushed it. And then I got through the halfway point, or it was a little over halfway. I was a little defeated at one point, just the way the race went. And then I slowed down for a couple miles, like maybe 10 seconds a mile, 20 seconds a mile. And I'm like, oh, screw this. I feel okay. And I picked it back up, and I started playing the end game, like at the end, and I started picking it up a couple seconds a mile. So I was able to finish strong. And I thought, somebody asked me what my goal was. I'm like, 4:15. And I put it out there pretty soft. I felt like I could do that. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I feel good enough. I'm just gonna keep picking it up, and whatever happens, happens. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, I want to come back to that, but let's welcome Marc VK, who's joining us on today's podcast. Thank you, Marc, for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah, you were on back in the fall, which we'll get into more. But I want to ask about Armed Services a little bit, because your marathon specifically, not about Armed Services. I mean, yeah. So did you start with a 4:15-ish like pace, or did you start just wherever it was comfortable, knowing you had a marathon ahead of you?
I stayed comfortable, but on the edge of comfort. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a little bit past comfortable.
Okay.
Because it's funny, I have not even run my normal 8-miler at the pace that I ran that marathon at.
Well, that's why I wanted to get to it a little bit, because if I remember correctly, you haven't been feeling super strong leading into this season.
No.
Of marathon season, or race season, I guess. And you were not nervous, but just weren't feeling like gung-ho about running a great marathon or a strong marathon at Armed Services. You were just like, I don't know how this is going to go.
Because all my races are pacing so far. So I'm like, and the double, like you can't go hard in a double. Like, you have to be.
Was that a week before or 2 weeks?
2 weeks before. I ran Riverbank in between.
Okay, so you ran the double, and then the next weekend Riverbank, and then the next weekend was Armed Services.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
just trying to get a gauge for what led into.
Yeah. And I just didn't have a lot of confidence. So I was like, whatever happens. If I blow up, I blow up.
Yeah.
And
so did you negative split?
I have to look at it close, but I think within seconds of a negative split.
Okay.
Like, it was pretty even, pretty
nice,
pretty set up.
Well, that's great. I think though, when I look at that, you were putting in some decent mileage.
But I went with the Dan Kasperowitz method. It's just put in a lot of miles. I mean, he does more tempos and stuff like that, I think that double.
That's what I'm getting.
Just those grueling miles where your ass is kicked, know, and you're just exhausted, and just all the exhaustion from that. I think that stuff matters. Yeah. I think it helps you.
Well, that's what I was wondering and thinking through this, because you had kind of a strong start, and then your back hurt or
My
something,
back, I
so
was
you
out
took
for
a little bit.
I took about 3 weeks, almost a month.
And then you were able to kind of like build back in decently, which led up to the double.
Yeah, build back in decently. I wasn't ready even for Glass City. Like I was pacing Glass City.
That's right.
Because I did not have big miles in for that.
But I think it speaks to your base that you had. You had a really good base because of the last 6 months prior, essentially, and then went down for just a little bit and then built right back up. And you were essentially fine through all of those races.
Yeah. I've been really worried that my back is going to like give me problems, but I've been stretching like crazy. I've been hitting my legs with that massage gun every morning.
Okay.
Enough that it annoys my family because they can hear that thing going off.
Yeah.
And I lay on the ground. I just pound the snot out of my legs and try to get, and I think it's that overall thing. And then just trying to stretch out my spine, trying to make sure that I'm not putting extra stress on it just because nothing, like everything else is bound up. So just trying to do all of that. And I feel like I've been pretty solid. Like it doesn't feel like it's twinging. It doesn't feel, so it's been good. I just hoping the hammer doesn't drop somewhere else.
So then, so that was Armed Services, and then you had 1 week or 2 weeks off.
No,
till Bayshore.
Bayshore was the next week.
1 week. So you had 1 week till Bayshore, which is part of the reason why Mark is here today. Mark,
good roll in.
Yeah.
Because that's really what we want to get to because he had big goals.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're big. I think it's a good goal.
Yeah.
But he is more than capable. That's why, that's what I mean by I don't know if they're big. He's proven himself by last year, Bayshore was your first marathon.
Yes.
And you had a solid marathon. I mean, it was a marathon, right?
A solid, cautious marathon.
Yeah.
Because he gets teased for this all the time. They call him a sandbagger because I think he's an overthinker, which some people are. I know a few people like that. And you had a good race, but it was like you knew you had more and you finished feeling good. And I think that's really good for your first marathon, right?
100%. Mm-hmm. I think it's you did a lot of what I did, I think, my first marathon, in that I had enough people tell me, hey, listen to me. Take it easy. Through that first half, you are going to feel amazing because you've put in especially if you've put in the work.
Right.
If you've followed a training plan to lead you up to a marathon, doesn't really matter the training plan. If you've followed a training plan that is set to succeed in a marathon, chances are, or most likely, if everything's going well, you're going to feel amazing through that first half because training for a marathon leads you up to it. Like the half is almost, I don't want to say nothing, but that distance is.
You should be able to kick a half in the butt.
Yes.
Right? Like because of all that training. And it makes it seem easy.
And what happens to a lot of people, and I would say the vast majority of the people, is they feel that race excitement and they go out and they go bonkers through the first half.
Everybody but Mark.
Yeah. Well, and same here. I think it's the smaller percentage that listen to people and say, well, what I've said before, tell yourself through the first half, you can't be going slow enough. And I think you listen to the people that were telling you, hey, take it easy. And so you had a good race at Bayshore.
Mm-hmm. And enough that he wanted to do it again.
Yes.
Exactly. True, yeah. And so that takes us to
the half
at Park to Park.
Yep.
You ran Park to Park last year.
Yep.
And had a really good race there.
Yep.
Was that still cautious, do you think? Or did you just go at it?
It was probably a little bit cautious even.
But not as cautious as Bayshore.
Not as cautious as Bayshore. No
and
way.
You continued to train solidly for the Park to Park half.
Yeah, that's what I want to get into is like you get out of that and you're like, like I had this long-term goal. I think that long-term is shorter term than what I was thinking.
Yep.
The goal Did you have a goal prior to Bayshore of qualifying for Boston?
The first marathon, I would have liked to, but
Okay. So you already had kind of an interest.
I had an interest only if it went well.
Yep.
Because I had no interest in running a marathon at all 6 months before that.
Until we bullied him into it.
Yes. So when I finished that, then I got a little bit more interested and thought, okay, maybe a 2-year plan, 3-year plan.
Okay, after Bayshore.
Are you an engineer by any chance?
I am.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So then fast forward to the fall, you run park to park and have a solid half marathon, which the time was within the whatever people say.
It's times 2 plus 10. It fell in within that.
To qualify for Boston.
Yeah.
Yes.
I put you in the qualifying for Boston time frame,
Yes, it did.
which would have been what, 1:30?
I needed a 3:25, and with that math, it would be 3:20.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
felt like
Okay.
I was kind of there already.
Okay.
Or had an opportunity to be there.
So what? Do the math back. What was Park to Park?
135.
135. Okay.
And a little bit of sandbagging, a little bit of cautiousness.
Well, I think again, it's two different race perspectives.
I
know.
negative split that one too.
Yes. See, so
no, but I'm giving them a hard time because there's another group that kind of gives them a hard time about that a lot.
I think it's smart racing.
I think so too, but there's there's that fine line of like how easy do you go and when do you just say, let's just see what happens.
And I think until you have a race where you truly bonk, you don't know where that line is.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that anybody go out there and
it
hit a
depends
race that they blow up on.
And it depends on what you have at risk. Like if you put in this training and you have this goal, you probably want to play it cautious. But if you, sooner or later, you gotta.
I don't know that I would even use the word cautious. I would run per the plan.
Yeah.
Because if you've
per the
trained,
training.
yes,
Per
if
the
you've
training.
trained for 3:30, and then you have a 3:30, plan, you don't go out and go, I'm going to go 3:20.
We've seen that a few times.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think running for the 3:30 is cautious. I think it's running to plan.
Right. To what you're trained for.
And to your point, Mitch, I think if you don't have anything at stake and you're just like, you know what? I'm feeling really good. Grand Rapids is around the corner. I'm going to go out there and see what I can do. I've ran a 3:30. I'm going to go see if I can crush a 3:23 or something like that, and I'm just going to go out there and do it.
And hang on.
And if you end up running a 4-hour because your second half is a 2:30,
it doesn't matter.
You at least know, hey, I know I'm close to that line now. So, but if you go out there and run a 3:15, all right, then you were.
That's funny because I think that's Brian's strategy a lot of times.
Yeah.
Like he's a positive splitter a lot of times, but he just like goes out, balls to the wall.
He just
says,
goes out to crush it from the start.
Yeah, and then it's like, it might not have worked out as well as I thought.
It's funny because he has tried.
He's a good
splitting.
grinder.
He is a great grinder. Yeah, I don't grind well. I need a plan, and I need to stick to that plan. Yeah, I'm not. I've gotten myself in those
suck it up moments.
No, not even suck it up. Pass out moments where you're seeing black dots coming in at Kalamazoo a couple of times.
Then you know you put in a good effort.
Yeah, and you're within 1.5 miles of the finish. So it's like, not now.
I had that at Crater Lake.
Yeah.
Like I was like every time it was like 90 degrees. Every time we take off to go run, I'm like, I'm seeing spots.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta back off.
When you start seeing those floaty black dots come in your frame of view, you know you're at your limit.
Yeah.
when you pick it up and it's like a second faster per mile and your heart rate skyrockets, you're at your limit.
It's a rough day.
But yeah, so Mark, you ran park to park, you had a great park to park. You then you said, screw this 2-year plan.
And then and then the plan. That's what I wanted to get into was the training. So you decided to follow a Hansen plan.
I did.
Pretty close, but then you loosened it up. somewhat.
Yeah, my intention was the plan I used last time worked really well, I thought. But now I could plug in a different number in there for what some of my workout paces and things should be. So I plugged in, the 320. So we talked about my first marathon, what did you plug in for? And I just kind of randomly said 4 hours and did that. This time I had a better idea of what I was really shooting for. So
you plugged in 4 hours, but you ran what?
3:39.
3:39. Which you've never ran a marathon.
Correct.
Sandbagger.
Something like that is going to happen.
Correct.
But there's the other side. You could have plugged in 4 hours and ended up running 4:30. I mean,
that's possible.
You don't know.
Yep.
It happens.
Until you know. So you plugged in 320.
Yep.
You started training essentially right after Park to Park?
I just ran probably 40 miles, 45 miles a week.
Without
any real structured training.
Which is good. It's
until
just
the end of
miles.
January.
Yeah.
End of January.
Beginning of February.
Because
I started.
Those plans are not meant to be couched to marathon training. They say you have a base. Mm-hmm. So you kept your base, you kept running. And then 40 miles a week, if you think about it, what you did prior, that's a lot of miles compared to what you used to do.
Oh, yeah.
So even your base, when you went and just said, hey, I'm just going to plod along, I'm not going to worry about any specific training, but you're running a lot of miles. Mm-hmm. So you're getting ready for the training.
Yes. Yep.
So you start the training January, February.
Yep.
And training goes well?
Yeah. What I've come to learn about myself is that I love the structure. So the months leading up to it.
Engineer.
Yep.
It was, I would do some tempo kind of intermittent things here or there because I just needed to break it up. I couldn't just run easy miles all the time. But yeah, so I started that. And as true to form, I kind of had, repeat 400s. This is kind of the target you're shooting for. I can't even remember what it was, 638s or something.
Yep.
638 per mile pace.
Yep.
And I think I was doing like 630s.
Okay.
My tempo, I was supposed to run 738s, and I was running 730s.
Okay.
We're always overdoers. It's like I feel more comfortable if I can beat that.
I do. I do. I think mentally, I know I can slack backwards a little bit, but if it feels okay, just keep going. And that was kind of my mentality through the whole training.
Did you program it into your watch to do it then? And then
I did.
Did you screw it up like you did last time and then do your 400 hard at the time you're supposed to be doing your recovery?
No, I've learned a lot more about how to program my Garmin to do things. When I do things on the track, I learned to use the lap button. Don't let the GPS tell me.
Oh.
It doesn't.
And I'll
it's
tell
always
you
a little
what,
short.
man, for those that have never ran like that, using lap and using your Garmin for different things, or any watch for different things, it can get confusing on what it's telling you to do or not do, especially if you program in a workout. I've never done that.
That's why I laugh. I'm kind of teasing Dan that we run with is because he can't read his watch face, and then so he needs his glasses on, and then he messes it up.
I'm in that boat. I set my watch up for pacing duties, and I'm going, I got to have fewer and fewer screens on my watch to be able to read it. And I just have to scroll like, all right, I need screen 2, see what our overall time is. All right, back. So I can see our current
so you
pace.
can see it without putting your readers on.
Yeah, I basically need one screen on my watch now.
Or you need like an iPad on your hand so that you can see it.
Yeah. I put the wrist things on now, and it's like, these are pointless. I'd have to hold it out here or have glasses to be able to see the time.
That sucks getting old. I like it when they put it on the sign so you can hold it up and you can kind of look at it. And I still can't see it, but
Yeah, I need to figure out what would be cool is I wish it would be the opposite, like where you could print stuff off on a piece of paper or something and it has the reader prescription on it. So that, like, nobody else could probably read it, but you could. It'd be absolutely clear. I mean, that would be awesome.
Or
that would work for me. Or a watch that would do that.
Show the pace you should be at and say...
Man, that's actually a super good idea. If you know your prescription is something and you could do this overlay on it.
Oh, there you go.
That is a moneymaker right there.
Shh, let's not talk about it right now.
We won't put that out. We'll edit this out and we'll come up with this.
Well, I'm selfish. I don't care if people make money off it. Just make it for me.
Oh, no, I want to make the money.
Well, I do, but I'm too lazy.
It would be probably some work. Anyway, let's get back to Mark's training. And so training went well. You pretty much followed it. However,
no injuries, though.
No, there was, I've been kind of struggling with a hip issue for a couple of years now. And in December, I've gone to a physical therapist, but what I found is I didn't do my homework. When you go to see a physical therapist, they give you things to do, and you didn't do it very well. So finally, I got a little frustrated with it, and I went and saw a sports medical doctor about my hip. And so they took x-rays. He came back in the room, and he said, your hip looks perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. He said, lay down on the table. He started moving my legs around a little bit, and he said, it's your butt. Your butt's weak. All you runners, your butts are weak.
I got a lot of jokes for that.
No, but what is it? It's your, what the heck is it? What's the muscle there?
Glutes.
Is it your glutes?
I don't know.
The butt cheek?
I'm trying to think. It might be just your glutes. Yeah, the glutes aren't firing.
Yeah, so he gave me, of course, just a big sheet of paper with all kinds of exercises, and I started religiously doing those every day. And I journal every day after I run. I write down and I write how I feel, how my hip feels. And if I look back at that, it took about a month to where of that. So through December and into January, and I can look back and see where I start writing down no hip pain, no hip pain, no hip pain, all the way through.
Did you get better definition in your butt through all that then? Or
I don't know.
Did you ask?
I can't see.
He can't see his butt. Why don't you tell us, Mitch? Yeah. Did he have a better butt?
I don't know. We run in the dark, so I don't.
It's too early.
Not right now. It's not.
Right.
Can't see it.
So that
he doesn't
made
wear
a
tight
huge
shorts
difference.
either.
Oh, that's
he's kind of he's shy.
He's modest.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that made a big difference in my confidence level too. That I wasn't having any of that to work through.
Yeah.
This time around.
Yeah, and so you said, I mean, when we ran Friday, you just made the comment that you hadn't been doing those exercises this week, and you could tell.
I could tell.
So you got to stay at it.
The first 2 miles I ran post-marathon, my hip was bothering me, and I was super frustrated. So I went home and I did exercises, and then I ran today again. It feels great. So
because you got back on the exercises.
I think so, yes.
You were going to say something. Your doctor said something about you runners.
Said your butts are always weak.
Really? That's funny. That because the glute, what it does for running must be, it can kind of take a break or something.
It must be, yeah.
Because it does need to fire for everything to function correctly, because that is a very common theme I hear. Oh, the glute's not firing, so you got to do this to fire it. I had a similar issue leading into a 100 a couple of years ago, and I was given these things that these exercises you're supposed to do, and you could actually do it while you're out running in order to spur the glutes to start firing on time.
Well, I remember Carl doing all that stuff though too. When he was we had that training year where he did qualify.
Yep.
And we had to do, we just did the same workout as him, even though we weren't trying to put into it like he was, but doing high steps and, going up hills, doing high steps and doing butt kicks and doing stuff like that to try to strengthen things.
I can't imagine it's bad. I mean, unless you have some injury that the doctor's like, you shouldn't be doing these right now. I can't imagine it's bad for you.
I think that's when I had, before I had diagnosed what was wrong with my back. My back was sore, so we're doing that stuff, and it's like it hurt. So I didn't put as much into it as what everybody else did at that time.
Well, I mean, it is the other common theme is you hear everything's connected. So it even though your whatever hip hurts, it might have zero to do with your hip.
Right.
It's something else that you're doing, which is compensating for something else, which is then compensating, and it could be a chain to get to where you can actually locate what's wrong or what's actually causing the issue. So no issues, did your glute workouts and all that, and you flowed into some training that Mitch is saying you followed the plan, but there was a little bit of you took some liberties with it and did a little bit of
because I'm
something
a big.
different.
That's why I liked it. I'm a big proponent that it's got to be fun too. Because for me, when I was trying to, increase my marathon time, it just got to be where it wasn't fun because you're doing your own workouts.
It's easy to increase your marathon time.
Well,
just do less, decrease,
or do better.
Yeah,
whatever. Good. Yeah. So, but you were doing the workout with friends in Holland.
Yes.
Which was good because they were challenging you.
Yeah. So basically, the way I broke it down is I would do a tempo run on Mondays by myself. I'd take Tuesdays off. Wednesdays, probably at least 50% of the time, I would go to Holland at night and run with my brother Eric's group, which I'd done some of that before the half marathon and stuff. Barry's Beer Runners is the group. And so a lot of times on Wednesday nights, they're doing something at the track.
Okay.
And so I might have had to do 6 by 1 mile repeats or something, and they were going to do 8 by 800,
Gotcha.
Or something. And I went and did kind of what they were doing because I figured if it's fast, if it's doing that, and it just the social side of it. That's the one thing I've found with running in general is, Friday mornings are my day that I meet Mitch and the guys at Church View in that neighborhood to go run. I like to go run on Wednesdays in Holland, and just running with other people makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
To get out the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, those guys really challenged me. I'll give you an example. The 2 weeks before the Bayshore, I think it was 3 weeks before, we did a 10 by 800s. So Yasso 800s with like a 2-minute recovery between, and I ran average of 3:08. Was my 800.
But they put a rabbit in front of you a couple times.
They put a rabbit in front of me. Yeah, John Mings basically ran out in front of me calling off splits, and I just hung on. So on my own, it might have been 3:15s, but with a rabbit out there, I was able to do more.
Isn't what the Yasso 800s are? Is it whatever you run is what you can run? Potentially.
You
train for.
They kind of say a 3:08 average that I ran. It's you could run a 3:08 marathon.
That's what I thought.
So it was very confidence building. I didn't think I was quite there over the distance, but I mean, to do that was a big confidence builder for me.
So you did that.
So he has to just pace you. John Mings needs to pace you in a marathon. Yeah, that's what it says.
So training all went well, led up to race week. And how did the final, let's say 2 weeks, just because usually there's this quote unquote taper.
Yeah, and there's that can I or can I? There's some nervousness that comes with it too as you get closer.
Yeah. So how did the last 2 weeks go?
So 2 weeks prior to the marathon was a Riverbank run. So that was the day of my last long run, which in the Hansen plan, it's only a 16-mile long run. So I basically
and a slow-ish.
No, what? The plan for Hansen.
Yeah,
I needed to run 8:08s for my average for 16 miles.
Okay.
And so when I was doing previous ones, I was running 7:58. So again, I was a little bit faster than what the plan said.
Okay.
So when I went into the Riverbank run, I figured 15 and a half miles, close enough to the 16. I wanted to do it like I did last year. Last year, I basically just ran my marathon pace just to see how that felt. So I ran a 7:29 pace at Riverbank this year for the 25K.
But they wanted you to run 8:08.
Yeah. But I was
Gotcha.
based off of last year, I thought, let's run my marathon pace. Or it's actually a little faster than what I needed to run my marathon pace.
Okay.
Untapered, just how does it feel?
Yep.
And so I did that, and I felt good, ran the next day. So I, again, was just building confidence.
So I had a beer with them after the race, too, and, that whole group is there and stuff, too. And I just think it's funny that your brother Eric stayed just behind you long enough and then passed you within the last couple of miles.
Yeah.
And then you didn't catch him back.
Nope, that was not my
your
intent.
plan.
Because
That
he's
was not
stuck
my
on
plan.
his plan. It's like, you could at least run next to him and make him work a little harder.
I ran next to him for about 2 or 3 miles, and then he
Okay.
started inching ahead, and I said, nope, not doing that today.
Yep. That's smart.
So he's the faster Vanderkoy.
Yeah. 2 weeks out.
But
I mean,
age-wise, you're the faster Vanderkoy, right? So
Because I'm older.
Yeah.
So
Age-graded.
age-adjusted.
Age adjusted for
yeah.
Riverbank, you beat him.
on the percentage.
Yeah, percentage-wise, he beat him at Riverbank.
Well done.
Mitch says that. I'm not saying that out loud.
right.
No, he said this to me yesterday when we were running together. He just doesn't want to say it now. I just want
Gotcha.
to throw that out there. He's trying to be shy.
So so then how are the feelings then leading into that last week, like leading up to race day?
I think in my head was still trying to picture Riverbank, 15 and a half miles. I've got more than 10 miles to go. Can I really do this? I had done 10-mile tempo runs at 7:27 pace, 7:28. So I was feeling pretty confident.
You're fully capable.
Yeah, but it's just I haven't gone that
You can't
far
put it
at that
together.
pace. Yeah, it's like what is going to happen when I've got to go 10 more miles?
That's the thing about the marathon is it's still 26.2 miles.
It is.
And if you have a bad day, it's a long day.
Yes, it can be an extremely long day.
So through the taper, though, I didn't really get super anxious. Like, I just want to run. I want to run.
Okay.
A little bit. I felt like, the unfortunate thing is you watch like Garmin and Strava, and they have your training load scores for 7 days, and you just watch that drop and drop and drop and drop. But I'm getting better at saying, nope,
that's what it's supposed to do.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's funny about that, though, it's just a watch that's on your wrist.
I know.
It's not like actual medical testing. It's not like you're going in and get, like the same thing with the VO2 max, like that's on your Garmin. It's probably close.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's a gauge. I mean, it's
right. It's just funny to me. Like, I have friends that, oh, hey, look, it's like, way high. And it's like, and then they run a marathon. It's like, well, it didn't work out.
Yeah. It's definitely a tool. It's not absolute.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And it can help. It just, it's not absolute, but.
Right.
So yeah, a good week leading in, didn't feel anxious, and you head on up and sign up, or not sign up, go to registration, you do all your packet pickup, everything go well?
Yeah, everything went well.
Super.
It was better this year for Bayshore, I have to say that, because it wasn't at the school, so you could go earlier, and it spread people out, because otherwise, right when school, like 5 o'clock, it is a madhouse otherwise. So this year when I picked up my packet.
Where was it?
They had it at the like a convention
Civic Center or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was easy this year.
What's it normally been?
At the high school.
No, last year was. Is that how it's always been?
It's always been at always been at the high school, and they moved it this year, which I think was a good move.
Oh, okay. Because you never because you've ran this every year since you've ran a marathon.
Yeah, this was my 13th Bayshore,
and you've never said that it's been an issue before.
Not that it's an issue. What's nice about that is you see all your friends when you're getting your packet.
Yeah.
But I just noticed last year it took so long.
It was packed.
It was packed, and it's just like you kind of want to get in and get out because
it's funny because I say it was packed, but it was a huge amount of half marathoners that made it packed. Like it wasn't the marathon. Like you could easily walk up to the marathon line and you were good to go.
Yeah.
So you do all your registration, or you do all your packet pickup, go back. How did race morning go? Or, you get up, you feeling good, no issues?
Yeah, I slept reasonably well. I got up. I had my wife drop me off, a quarter mile from, and then so I could walk to the start. I wanted to get there early. I got there about an hour before it started. Just didn't want to be late.
No stress.
See, I'm the same way. I don't like those people that roll up last minute and they're basically running to the start line. That's not my thing.
No.
Out of the 163 races that I've, marathons that I've done anyway or further. Yeah, I don't like to.
Yeah.
I think
it's
stuff.
personalities and
And especially the parking at Bayshore is kind of a pain in the butt trying to get in there.
Yeah.
It's just kind of landlocked trying to get back to the high school. It just...
you have one side basically to park on.
So they come down the main road and it's just a line of people trying to turn in. And if you're trying to get in last minute, you're kind of hosed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got the best situation because my wife drops me off, then she goes back to the hotel, goes back to sleep for an hour. So then she gets ready to come because what time are you going to finish? I'll come and watch you finish.
Yeah.
Where'd you stayed in a hotel?
Yes.
And then you weren't far from the start line then?
No, a couple of miles away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, let's jump into the race.
All right.
I don't know the outcome yet. I specifically didn't want to know the outcome. Let's talk about just how did the race go? Let's talk about the first half.
Did you line up with a pace group or not?
So my target was like 320.
Yep.
And there is no 320. So
315 or 330.
315s are ahead of us. 330s behind. So I literally stood between them.
Yep.
When we went out. But as we went out, the 315 group was in front of me. And first couple of miles, I kept them 50 feet, 100 feet in front of me.
Okay.
And just thought, I don't want to run with them because I'll feel the pressure of running with them. I just want to kind of keep an eye on them and just kind of see where this goes.
Yeah.
And I just figured I'm going to lose, a couple hundred yards every mile and eventually they'll disappear.
Yep.
But I kind of just kept them right there in my sights for quite a while.
Okay. And so then for the first half of the marathon, were you steady?
Very steady.
Okay.
So I had my watch set up this time. So questions you asked me last time, I'm much more conscious of what I did. So I had my watch set up for the current mile that I'm in for the split.
Gotcha.
So that's what I was looking at. And I just kept saying, all right, just run under 7:30. Under 7:30.
Yep.
And I was running 7:26, 7:27. I had a 22 in there and a 28. And I just kept that pace, knowing those guys were supposed to run 7:26.
Okay.
Was their pace.
Yep.
So I figured if I'm a second or two, maybe I won't actually lose them.
Yeah.
I did that all the way easy to the turnaround.
So you get to the turnaround, they're still right about, 10 to 30 seconds ahead of you, whatever.
I'm pulling up his Strava right now. I was going to look at it.
My first mile's wrong, by the way.
Yeah, 9:29 on your first. Oh, man, that's consistent. That first. I mean, that one doesn't look right, but 7:26, 7:26, 7:25, 7:26, 7:25, 7:26, 7:23.
So basically,
7:27. Oh my gosh, that's consistent.
Didn't really lose anything. You just kept them right there.
Yeah. So mile 12, a little bit, 7:30, 7:22, 14, 7:27. That's damn consistent. And then 15, 16, 17, 7:28 on the dot.
You just kept them right there.
I kept them right there.
And you're at mile, what's that? 16?
That's your kind of consistency.
Sometimes.
Well, most of the
times.
time. Most of the time.
So that's at mile what?
When you actually run.
Yeah. So that's at mile 16?
Yeah.
You said?
17, he was still 7:28.
Okay, so stop there. So you're at mile 17, 7:28. Yep. You're basically at 3:15 at this point. I mean, roughly. You're whatever. Right. They're right in front of you.
Right.
How are you feeling?
Until probably 15, 16, I was like, this is amazing.
Okay.
This is amazing.
Okay. So then you hit 16, 17.
Yes. I was still okay.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember exactly
what's 18,
where.
Mitch?
18 was 7:33.
Okay. So
Still in there. Still in there.
But how are you feeling? Because the reason I'm asking this is because happens to 90% of or plus a percent of the people. This is where you realize you have a marathon.
Yes.
And this is where everybody says a marathon doesn't start until 18 to 20, 21 for some, 22.
Yeah, and that's a good point because here I'm looking at his pace. I'm not looking at his heart rate. So it'd be good to put his heart rate in there too because...
Well, and that's why I asked how is he feeling?
How do you feel? Because you can run a 7:33 and all of a sudden your heart rate, boop,
Or you can run a 7:28 like he did and his heart rate didn't move, but he feels like
Right.
I don't think I can hold this. Well, wait a minute. It's all mental at that point.
That's where I challenge. That's boredom. If your heart rate,
it's a marathon.
Yeah.
That's the
but
marathon
you're like,
piece.
oh my gosh, you start getting the mental side and saying, I got this much more to go. And you got to ignore that at that point.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So I think it was around mile 20 that I started to not feel like I was slowing down, but I'd look at my splits and I'd start to lose a few seconds.
Well, because mile 19 was 7:39, mile 20 is 7:33. So you can see a little chink in the arm area, but not bad. But you didn't lose much. You lost a few seconds.
Right.
But it's enough to start.
Yeah. And even, 6 seconds difference in the 2 miles there. I mean, you could have a hill, you could have an aid station, you could have a whatever, that can cause that kind of thing. And you brought it back, 7:33.
It would be fun to put this up and show the elevation change because there's a couple little bumps. Nothing
there
bad.
are, yeah.
Nothing bad, and heart rate on there just to see.
Yeah.
But,
so what's his heart rate at 7 or at the 20-mile mark? Just curious.
I don't know.
I think it does it in the sidebar right there, isn't it? On the bottom? Or no, that just says elevation.
Oh, it does. There is heart rate on there, so I need to look at that.
Yeah, so let's see.
So 19, and you're pretty consistent, but wow, you look at that 160, 161, 162,
so still
164.
Not bad. Still not bad.
I'm saying at 5 miles, 164, but it's steadily climbing because it's starting to get warm.
Oh, that's at 5 miles. I thought that was at 20.
66, 67, 67, 69, 68, 68, 170 at 13. But you look at that. So 170, 171, 171, mile 20, 172, 21, 172.
Definitely.
It's starting to climb. 170.
That upper limit at our age. But you still got room.
Yeah.
And you've essentially got about 3 to 4 minutes in the bank for your goal.
For your goal.
315, but for 320.
But you don't want a positive split if you can help it, But
I mean,
whatever.
You've got, and nobody, and especially I will say the banking system doesn't work.
But what's funny is you see the slowdown, mile 20, 733, 21, 742 at 172. So his heart rate's climbing.
Yeah.
And he's slowing. So he's feeling it. So,
and this is where.
So what did you say at the end? What did you say when you walked into the tent by me? I found out where the wall is.
Oh, yeah.
I finally.
Yeah.
Well, so hang on. So hang on. So two things. You have roughly, let's say, 3 minutes in the bank. This is where the banking system doesn't work, and I still don't know the results, but I will say this. So you said he went from 7. I'm sorry. What was that last mile? 21 or whatever.
21 was 742.
42. So you're losing. So he 12 was seconds.
Pretty consistent. 726. We'll say pretty consistently.
Almost 20 seconds.
So that drops all the way up until there's a little chink at 18, 19, 733, 739, 733 at 20. But at 21 it's 742.
What's his worst mile in the last 5?
My last mile.
Well,
the very, very last one on Strava, I forgot to stop my watch.
But, no. I meant
26.
Within the 16 to...
And what was that? The last mile?
8:29, I think.
8:29. So that's a minute. 1 minute gone. And this is that whole banking thing.
Yeah.
It's like 1 minute in 1 mile gone.
Yeah.
And not because you banked. I'm not saying that you went out with that intent.
Right.
I'm just saying
but
you can lose so much time so fast.
So that 8:29 is mile 26. That's what he pointed out. But that's the mile that you know the end's coming,
and realistically you should be able to hold the last mile.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on where you're at. I mean, if he knew, okay, so let's get the cat out of the bag. Did he hit 320?
Yeah.
Under
320. Okay, so
so he was
3:18:39.
3:18:39. So that's where so that is where you potentially could have if you were at a 3:21 pace at that point for that last mile, let's say, or a 3:20 pace. You're on pace to run 3:20. I would wager that the last mile would have been faster.
I would agree.
Because you knew, you're like, well, this is dumb. I don't want to, if I got to get to the finish line, I have 3 minutes in the bank. I can give back a minute and I can enjoy myself this last mile.
I tell you though, that last mile, I did not try to run it easy. I was everything.
But it's got that slight uphill.
It does.
Because I was
it's a huge hill. It's huge.
At the end of that race,
Mark, it's not a big hill. Not at all. It's a slight.
Less than an overpass.
It's not even an overpass.
Right.
It's really not that bad, but
if you could have seen it through my eyes,
you needed. This is where you need to suck it up a little bit, right?
Yep.
But that's what's funny. I was pacing there, and there's a guy that I caught, and I'm trying to bring him in, and then he did. He ran ahead of me.
After the neighborhood?
Yeah, it's the last stretch.
Okay.
So you kind of come up, and I'm laughing. That dude is going up that hill, and you could see he looks like Rocky, and it's like, and he did it, but I'm way back behind Mark at this point, but I was impressed. That guy was able to keep running. I'm like, you just got to keep running, and he was able to finish that way. So to Mark, he's running. I mean, come on. I mean, he's running an 8:29 pace at that, and he's giving it everything he's got. Yeah. At that point, and I'm impressed with that. I mean, I've been teasing you a lot in the last week about you got more, but you could just tell that's the effort. Like that last little bit. If you go 21 is 7:42. 7:52, 7:53, 8:08, 8:12, 8:29. I was
losing 10 seconds a mile.
Yeah.
And he's doing this. His heart rate's going whoop, and he's doing this. It's that last bit.
Yeah.
So we did talk about that a little bit yesterday too. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you get over that? In my opinion, though, is that long run, you need that progressive end of, you need to do a long distance run, and you need to start in training. That would be my counter to that, is where you try to pick it up at the end of a race or at the end of your long run.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of you can't go back.
He did well.
Yeah, totally.
I'm just saying,
and I would agree. I think you can't go back, obviously, and replay it. Right? There's no way, because every race is going to be different. So, so looking at it, and you look at the race, you go, okay, well, had you ran, let's say, 3 seconds slower or 3 to 4 seconds slower per mile to the first 20, there's a potential you actually could have ran faster overall.
Correct.
Potentially.
And that's the stuff that goes through my head. Like, how do I manage that better? And I know the last time that I was here with you guys, you asked questions about, what the last 4 or 5 miles feel like. And I really didn't have a good answer, because it felt like I was just running to finish a marathon. I was like,
I heard a little bit, but I didn't feel awful.
I had thoughts.
Well, for sure, because you had a goal specific. This not your first marathon. You had a goal of a qualifying time.
All I want to know, was I in your head at all at the end?
No.
Sorry. I like that because.
But I'll give you an example. I've been telling people, at mile 22, there's an aid station. And I walked through the aid station to drink.
Yeah.
And I told myself as I was doing it, you just need to get good fluids. Don't spill anything.
True.
I was not dehydrated.
How warm was it at that point?
I started running.
They got warm at the end.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, full sun too.
So you were feeling the heat at that point.
I don't.
Not heat.
Heat doesn't bother me that much.
But I think
it was in my head.
Gotcha.
So as soon as I started running again, I kept telling myself, dude, why did you do that? Do not do that again. You didn't need to do that.
Oh,
it was an excuse.
Yeah.
At mile 24, I went through my head and said, what if I walked for 60 seconds? I've got time. I could walk for 60 seconds. And then the other side of me saying, you're not hurt. You're not done. Just keep going. There's no reason. But this was the first time I've ever.
You kept going.
It can, in a half marathon, in anything that I've been in my head for those last 4 miles, really going through the process. When I finished the race, you come along the front stretch, and I remember last year, my brother Jeff and his wife Jody, Dan, his wife, my wife, were all there. I remember them standing out there taking pictures and video, and I'm raising my hands. And yes. This year, I hardly remember them doing that. because I was not raising my hands coming through there this time. It was a totally different experience this time.
It's a good one.
Yes.
Coming to the end of yourself. I don't think people understand, like what it feels like to, you have to put yourself in the basement to and then what comes out of the other side really feels good. Mm-hmm. You're just not in the mood. Like Dan made a comment about, I was going to come out and run with you. I don't think that would have been serving at that point. I think that would have just been annoying at that point. Like, I just need to run.
Yeah.
I did tell him, I said, if you would have, I would have been like,
no,
like
not paying any attention to
like, get away from me. Like, it's not helpful at that point. I'm in the basement. It's not helpful.
I think.
And ultras are different. Like, you need that, like, somebody to keep you. But in a marathon, it's different. I don't need a pacer in a marathon. Or a friend pacer. I need to close down. I need to be by myself.
I think you said it right I think that, and no offense to Dan, but I think that a lot of people do it and it's self-serving. They want to be the friend that helps their friend or whatever.
No,
and I don't want to.
And again, him coming out, like they drove up the day up. That was
to
awesome.
come and see me run.
Like that part's cool.
I'm not
like
saying that.
But to be on the sidelines and say, hey, I was there for you, coming to the finish, that's great.
No. And again, that's what I mean. I'm not saying that against Dan or anything like that, but I have seen so often it takes away from, I feel like, especially in a marathon, like you say, ultra's a little bit different, but in a marathon, it's like, just let the runner have their moment. Like, that's their moment, and it's different for everybody, because like if you had a wife and kids and you're like, what? No, I want my wife and kids to do it. But like, I think it's just, man, you've got to it's got to be a special relationship there, especially in certain moments like this where you dug it out for 26 miles. That's your moment. Like, let you have it, It's like,
most of your listeners don't know Dan. But this is Dan. Dan wants to help everyone do everything. This is absolutely. It's from the heart.
It's from the right place.
Absolutely in his heart. Like, how can I help you?
Yeah.
I believe you can do it. I want to help
for sure.
you
100%.
any way I can. And
I have like at Bayshore,
and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I have come in and I've like at Bayshore when my kids were younger, and I've grabbed my girls and had them run across the line with me before, but I wasn't trying to run a PR race. I'm coming in and it's like, oh, my family's here. Let's come in together.
I just think it's a delicate situation that sometimes doesn't get a lot of thought put to it. And I think it's okay for some, and at other times it takes away from the runners, I don't know, and just
But he was
accomplishment. He
didn't come out and run. He didn't do any of that stuff.
I'm not saying that against Dan. I've seen it too much in other areas, and I'm just like, man, let that runner have their thing.
I just appreciate, his wanting to help, wanting to be that cheerleader, wanting to try to get you to your goals.
There's just
super helpful.
There is those points where you're like, oh,
I wouldn't have known he was there. I couldn't. I wasn't.
You were completely zoned out at that
point. Out by that point.
Like, huh? You were there?
Because on the other side of it, there's a potential that it is a pick-me-up for the right person.
Right.
And it could help them. Hey, all right, I got somebody here, because I know that does feel good too. So again, on the flip side of everything I just said, there is that potential. It does help somebody.
But that section at Bayshore, coming up that last little stretch up that hill, I always do look forward to, because I saw Ron Mezeron and Sue Mezeron out there. And that's the first thing I asked, because that was the other exciting thing, is Gary Kowalczyk qualified for Boston last week.
I saw that. That's awesome. Congrats,
and
Gary.
Jim O'Connor ran with him and paced him. And I kudos to Jim dragging him and helping him, and Gary. And then that's the first thing I asked as I come up that thing. I was like, did Gary make it? And he's like, yeah, he made it with change. And as I went through the chute, Gary was still sitting next to Jim, and he was not getting up like he did anything. He was exhausted. It's like you put in a good day. Yeah. So I'm super excited for that too, for Gary.
Yeah, and Jim ran the race.
He was registered, and then
because I will say that too. Wasn't this recently that and to the point of Mark, There was somebody in a race recently that qualified for Boston, and they had a pace somebody come in and run with them
At
and
the
pace
end?
them in,
And they got
disqualified
Yeah.
because it paced them in.
That's what Dan, he said too. He's like, yeah, I was worried if
Yeah.
something bad like that happened.
Chances are
Right.
not, but
Right.
boy, that would suck.
Right.
Yeah, Jim was definitely registered for
Yes.
the race, and they had decided to run together. That's
Yeah.
completely,
Completely legal.
Right.
Yeah.
But and Gary's been trying for a while, and he's like, and I've run races where I've paced, and I catch him at Charlevoix. I caught him at the bridge one year. Come on, Gary, come with me. No, I'm done.
And he's
then-
such a good heart.
He's a great guy.
Man, oh man. He'll just put on a smile. No.
And then his son ran with him another year
at Charlevoix.
and I caught him later. I caught him by the ski hill. He's like, took you longer to catch me today.
Oh,
And he
that's right.
So, and then at, I think at Glass City, he kind of got in his own head, and he was so stressed out about it. And I said, Gary, it's supposed to be fun, And then I come through, and I think one of the things he said to me was, "You didn't catch me this time."
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
"No, I didn't," and I'm very glad.
Yeah,
I
he ran
did
like
not.
a 401 or something.
Yeah, that's just fantastic. I was very excited about that.
Yeah, that's
not
really
to take
cool.
away from what
Well, that's what I was going to say. Congrats, Mark,
Thank you.
on qualifying. I'm assuming you're going to be signing up.
As
September?
soon as I can, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got hotel reservations already, so
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, because you have like 7 minutes.
6 and
6:21
something or something.
Yeah.
So I feel
Yeah,
pretty
man.
confident with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
but
Congrats.
he does have Chicago this
Fall?
October.
this fall, so he could try to beat 3:18 and finally, maybe you could go after Eric's time.
Yeah.
He gets
3:11.
He gets uncomfortable every time I say this. He doesn't want to. But secretly, he said he's going for it. He's going to go for him.
Go for it at Boston.
Yeah, as bad as I thought I felt at the end of Bayshore, it actually motivated me because I'm like, now I want to figure out these last 4 or 5 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, if I felt good, could I get that 3:15, 3:14? So now I'm thinking Chicago rather than just run. I may try to,
Because it doesn't matter.
because it doesn't matter now.
Yeah,
I got
right
what
at
I
this
need.
point.
And, I mean, it matters for bragging rights. But,
Yeah.
But that's the one thing I don't like about Hanson's is it never has you do more than 16. I know it's built to where you do back-to-back longer runs, and it's supposed to mimic, like that long run and do that. But I just think that those, maybe, I do think because of that double, like what it did for me and that excruciating end and how to suck up the pain and stuff like that. But you have to, I think it would help to do doubles like that and then
I
that
think that's
feeling.
what, after our discussion yesterday, I think that's a modification I may make to that is do a couple 20 milers with something faster at the end. Just
I don't know I don't know all the, thought process that went into it, the Hans's plan, but I mean, it worked for me too. I mean, that's my PR race is using the Hanson's plan. And I followed it pretty close to a T, modified because they have a modified version where you can dial back. Cause I wasn't running 6 days a week either. Like I just couldn't. And, so I ran a modified 4 or 5 days a week plan on it and it worked for me. And I was nervous because every plan I had done took you up to 20, but I only went up to 16. But I will say that the mileage I was putting in per week was more than other plans.
Yeah.
And it was faster.
I do agree with that part.
It's just a
too.
different.
I do agree with that. Like you can't have the majority of your distance on Saturday. I think you're setting yourself up to get hurt. If you're doing 3 milers during the week and then doing a 20 miler on, I think that you're setting yourself up for injury.
Yeah.
So Hanson does have you doing more during the week. So it's not like, short. Oh, super long, short.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah, it's just different plans, different approaches. And I think that one will inspire confidence for some people and one will not. And I think that's why there's more than one plan out there that fit different people. So, well, congrats.
Thank you.
It's exciting. I'm looking forward to Chicago and Boston next year.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah,
So am I.
to follow you, I mean.
Okay.
To see how things go.
Before we finish, though, I did make some notes here that I wanted to just thank some people.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
awesome.
For all intents and purposes, I'm 54 years old. This is like, I was equating going to Bayshore like the AFC Championship game. Can I go to the Super Bowl? Which may seem really silly to some people, but
no, I think it makes sense to all the runners out there.
It was big. So I want to start with just thanking my wife just for supporting me through all of this and really putting up with all my running talk without. I try to temper it a little bit, but it's very hard for me to do.
Have you done an anniversary running trip
I have
yet?
not.
You should try
but
that
she
one.
is interested in me. Like, can you do all the world major marathons? Because I'd love to go to all those countries. So maybe that's in there. I'd say my daughters, Allison, Rachel, and Megan, the texts I would get and things, just how they looked up to me for doing this was so awesome.
Yeah, that's
that
amazing.
I could see that.
That's cool.
Dan, Joy, my brother Jeff, and Jody, they all came up to Traverse City to support other people, but also just to see me run that race with that in mind. So the Churchview guys, Churchview Court guys, 4:45 a.m.
Heard that's no
guys,
fun, that group.
It's Dan and Mitch here and Rob and Carl and Scav. You know, without those guys, I would have never started on this journey.
True.
We thought it was possible.
We try to make it real for him, too.
Right. My brother Eric and the rest of Barry's beer runners in Holland for the speed work. Beer's always a good combo afterwards with that. For just pushing and challenging me to be faster. And I also, a week before Bayshore, I ran a mile under 6 minutes. I had one of...
First one?
First, because they were asking when we were at the track the night, they said, have you ever run under 6 minute mile? And I said, no. So Marissa paced me for the first 2 laps. I ran the 3rd lap. She picked me up on the last one and basically encouraged me loudly to go faster.
Stop being a sissy.
Something
Suck it up.
You don't need oxygen for the last 100 yards. Go faster. And I ran a 5:59.9.
That's awesome.
So all of those guys, I appreciate all their help. And just everybody else, friends, family, everybody who's just encouraged me along the way and congratulated me on this. It's been really cool.
That's awesome. Really cool. That's great. I'm glad you brought the list. That's cool.
He's a note taker.
Engineer, as we found out. Structure is good.
It's not as bad as a swimmer, though.
So from an engineer's standpoint, how did that last 5-6 miles go?
There was no figuring anything out. It was just
his mind shut off.
Yeah, at 4 miles, I said, "Well, okay, I got about 32 minutes to run yet." I was trying to figure out how many more minutes I have to keep going.
And math does not work at that stage. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
He got dumb.
Well, hey, congratulations again.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on the podcast again. It was exciting. It was fun the first time, and then it was really exciting the last, because Mitch has kept me in the loop on like, yeah, Mark's, man, he's looking good. He's got it solid. He could go way faster, and obviously
Sandbagger.
Yeah. And so it's been fun on the outskirts to kind of follow along, and then obviously going now and getting this getting it done. And especially I think of the last 5 miles, because that is where I don't want to say it counts, but that's where the marathon starts. The last like 6-ish miles, plus or minus a mile.
I saw black dots at the end.
Nice.
You did good work.
Welcome to the club.
Great work.
I remembered you saying that, and I'm like, yep, there they are.
Did you puke, though?
I did not.
Yeah.
Not everybody's a
next.
puker.
That's next. I do want to throw that out there, too, for Dan did run Boston this year, and then the bummer is he was going to go for a new PR, and he ended up injured, and that is definitely a bummer. He still sucked it up and ran the race, but he did it injured, and that's just
and that's the thing about or that's the thing about race day, right? You got to show up on race day.
Yeah,
you just never know. And unfortunately for Dan, I mean, he got to run the race still, and I think that's good. And there's a part of me that says he was able to take it in a different way than what he could have if he was.
He was knocking it out of the park, though, with all his training. And then it's just like, it was just textbook. It's like 3 or 4 weeks before, was it, when all of a sudden that it raised its head?
Like, oh.
And I don't think he'd been injured like that before. Everybody else is dealing with injuries. And then he's like, well, I'm always just running. And then here he is,
Boston's one of those races. I mean, depending on where you're at with speed, I mean, it is a race you want to experience, right? And so going for your PR there or going for,
that's where your PR is at, though.
It is, but that was my third time running it. And the first year I got to experience Boston like I wouldn't have been able to had I been, trying to go fast because I blew up and was forced into really, and it did give
really
me,
being in the moment.
Yeah,
even though it sucked.
I had to, and I took it in, and it was a great experience. Now I was able to go back and
redeem
have
yourself.
Really good 3 solid Bostons that I would put times up against anybody as far as, like you said, the pacing.
Oh yeah, your 3 mile splits on that one where your sub 3 was like within 2 or 3 seconds. Like it looked like a robot ran it.
Yeah, it's definitely that does speak to the plan. Like if you put together a plan and you stick to it and follow it, every mile in that race was followed to the T, like my plan.
Yeah, my intent with that is 4 hours, whatever. I just want to jog it and have fun. Honestly.
That's cool. That is really cool.
I'm not racing it.
I mean, I don't know.
Unless your brother, you gotta maybe you got to beat your brother.
Right now, I think there's 7 or 8 from that group that are all qualified. That
oh, nice.
All going, so.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, John Mings hasn't qualified yet, though, right? He's the one guy out.
He's one yet. Yep. He'll get his.
No,
he just needs to go.
What did he say? Maybe Charlevoix or something like that.
He was thinking maybe Charlevoix. Depends on the weather.
Okay. Yeah, that's a hot one though.
Could be. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be a cool one. He can get it.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, hey, thanks, Mark, for joining us.
Thanks again.
And again, congratulations. Well, and I'm looking forward to next April following and seeing how it goes. Mitch, any final comments? Wrap it up.
No, I can't. I'll say just all the talk that he talks about, beating his brother that he won't say now. I just want to throw that out there.
Not true.
I think for the record, it's not true. Well, cool. That's going to wrap up this week's episode. Be sure to check us out on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Instagram, but we don't do anything there at all. But we're there. And with that, we're going to wrap up this week's episode. Be sure to tune in next time as we share more about what we just don't know.
And until then, happy running.